Yeah, I'm not terribly prepared today, so you'll have to forgive me. Maayong buntag, maayong hapon, maayong gabi, no matter where you are, North. And we actually have sound. We're doing good. And comments are going up in both places. Okay, we're on roll. Yeah, where's our package today? Maayong gabi, Daniel? I just I'm thinking your evening by now. Our package has been out for delivery. Today will be the fourth day in a row. I checked earlier this morning, and they don't open until 9. They don't open until 9, which is just 9 here. But it's still not marked as delivered. It's still marked as we requested a later delivery date. Cindy's tried to call yesterday, and they're claiming it is in Cebu somewhere. But they still have no idea where it's at. That actually be Maayong Hapon. 6 is normally when they go to Maayong Gabi. But because we told them, that if you've got it and it's at your warehouse at Lapu-Lapu, we'll go over and get it. Just hang on to it tomorrow. We'll be in a cab first thing in the morning, and we'll be over there at 9 and pick it up. And I would have just done a live stream from the cab and doing that. But they said they don't know if it's on the delivery vehicle, if it's back at the warehouse. And come to find out, she's actually calling a number that rings in Manila. And they swear up and down they don't have a phone number for the Lapu-Lapu office. Which at that point I would have called. I would have called them on that one. That there is no way you can convince me that they do not have a means of contacting a major regional distribution center of their company. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it's at. Unfortunately, they don't either. Maayong hapon, David. How you doing today? I got to keep on thinking where everybody is and the time differences and all that fun stuff. But yeah, we're just talking about our CRBA, the CRIBA, and the passport. That there's 2 packages from Manila that are out for delivery. But the problem is they've been out for delivery for 4 days now. Well, Daniel, we had a mystery guest with us yesterday. Pretty much anybody that comes to the channel regularly knows who the mystery guest is, and most people would know who he is that are interested in Philippines channels would know who he is. But we're just sticking with it's a mystery guest, and I'm going like that old song. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. We talked about it repeatedly when right after Odette that he tried to do a couple from his phone through his apartment, through his data plan, and he admits that there's some huge benefits to him, and he didn't realize all of the benefits to him, and so he was just kind of observing and seeing how it went. I'm assuming that he's going to go back and I haven't talked to him directly since. That he's going to go back and view some of it to see what it looks like and see what it is. And the style of videos he does actually lends itself right to doing live streams like that. I don't mind being on camera. I enjoyed being on stage and stuff as a kid. I was real heavy into drama clubs. I was real heavy into community theater as a kid. So being in front of a camera is not a big deal to me. That's not true with everybody, him included, that he does not like being in front of the camera at all. And that's true with a lot of people. And that's what I kind of showed him is that doing these live streams, you don't really ever have to be in front of the camera if that's not your gig. And so I showed him the app that I use and all that fun stuff. And you might see some live streams out of him in the future. The biggest thing that he really likes about him is it's one and done. That there's no editing, there's no anything to it. The other thing is it gives him the type of footage doing the walking live streams like that. As he's repeatedly said, he loves going out there and walking and talking with people and stuff. And so it just lends itself to that kind of video, and it gives him stock footage to use in the future in his type of videos that he does do, the edited videos that he does. And that's the biggest advantage to doing live streams. This is our Philippines. How you doing today? And I'm not even going to try and guess on where you are, whether it's morning, noon, or after, or morning, noon, or evening. But Mayang hapon. We're going to stick with a Mayang adlaw. There we go. Magandang adlaw. There we go. Yeah, that the cost you were showing me that I'm assuming you don't mind me sharing that a little bit. Yeah, I need to break out glasses. Daniel was saying that it's going to be basically $3,200 for him to get to. Is that Manila or Cebu? Because I know you're going into Manila instead of direct to Cebu. So does that include you getting to Cebu? Does that $3,200 include you getting back to Cebu? Okay, so that's not. It's still pricey. It's still expensive without question. But yeah, at least that does include the final destination. So you magandang gabi. That this is our Philippines. Took me a minute to figure out where what time zone that would be. Indiana. That sometime in March, April, you got to take a load going out to Arizona, going out to Phoenix. Cindy and I have talked about it. We're actually gonna move tickets. We're gonna move tickets to sometime between the 7th and 11th, and assume that the packages will get here when they get here. Tomorrow is a holiday, so we're not entirely sure. And Harrisburg's I'm sorry, I get sidetracked and off track and all that other fun stuff. It's one of the drawbacks of one and done that all the mistakes like this wind up coming through too. But it makes it real. that we've talked real heavily about going back to. I've got a sister in Ohio uh, that she's moving to Ohio just as we move back to Arizona, and so sometime April or fall, we're talking about going back to Ohio, New York for a week or two. That, in all fairness, the consulate embassy said it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks minimum before we got it. We're actually sitting at 4 weeks, so it's still 2 weeks early by consulate. But the U.S. government, when they tell you paperwork, they tell you it's going to be at the latest possible date, latest realistic possible time. That way they're covered when things like this happen. But yeah, that not getting paperwork the way it's working out. This one's entirely on the delivery company. That I'm sadly fortunately, thankfully, the embassy in U.S. government was quick on getting it back here. But right now, it's just the low bid contractor that they've got for the delivery service. I think they're up by Youngstown, if I'm correct, is where they're moving. But I don't know positively for sure yet. So, but yeah, they got tired of the place that they're in. It's turning upside down liberal and going stupid, and they've just had enough of it. But I don't think they would be there into a house by April. And so we may, for a bunch of different reasons, put it off until this fall. And fall, it would be a beautiful time to go. Cindy's never been back to the Northeast during the changing of the leaves. So that would be a really cool time to go back. And David Brown, you are unquestionably correct that I've heard of people, literally taking a year or more to get this stuff done. So although it's frustrating knowing the paperwork is here in Cebu and we just can't get the stupid stuff, it could be way, way worse. Napoleon, Ohio. I don't think I've ever heard of that. What's the nearest major city, or what quadrant is it in? North, south, east, or west? Uh, that her father-in-law used to be one of the auto assembly plant workers, and I believe they're retired. I know they're retired. That my sister and her husband, that they're both about the same age, and they're both retired. Cindy had a friend that actually started her fiance visa packet a few weeks, a month before Cindy and I started hers. Cindy had gotten her interview, gotten everything taken care of, had received the visa, had moved to the U.S., submitted all the change of status paperwork, and we were actually down doing the interview for her green card the day her friend finally got the interview in Manila. So yeah, that it could be it could be horrible. Okay, I got a little bit better idea on that. That'd be on the western side of Ohio. Believe it or not, Toledo is one place that I've always wanted to go. I've been through it a bunch of times, but I've never stopped there. A big part of it, I ain't gonna lie, is because of the connection Toledo and Mash that had with Mash and Klinger. Cleveland is another one because of the Drew Carey show. But no, like I say, it's one of those almost first world problems about not getting the paperwork back in a reasonable amount of time. That I know I can't kick because I know that there's a lot of others that are having huge problems with getting this stuff back. We've got a friend of ours that they just submitted. His wife is a U.S. citizen, just recently got U.S. citizenship. So she submitted for her a couple of her siblings to come, and we're told that it could be up to a 15 to 20 year wait list. So, yeah, that I'm kicking and got here in 6 weeks. I got here in 4 weeks. You know, and just having problems getting it delivered. That was that. I got to ask, was that actually a song at one time, or is that just the theme song for Drew Carey show? Or did Drew Carey show make it a song? Wind up making it a song? I don't ever remember that being a popular song at that time. But I don't know. But yeah, that opening scene with that Cleveland Rocks, that is a real cool thing. I don't know if it makes a rat's bit of difference to anybody here, but an odd bit of trivia: Drew Carey is actually a former Marine. Morning, Jeff. How you doing today? I'm sorry, I didn't greet you. Wow. So you left Madison, Wisconsin first thing this morning, drove to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Now headed for Fort Wayne. Gotta love the life of an OTR driver. In your case, it's actually not that bad. Well, yeah, the lifestyle kind of sucks, but that when I was first married to my first wife, I started doing over the road for a while, and it was causing some problems because I was gone so long. Well, you're out of country anyhow, and with the Filipino, the OFW being such a cultural phenomena that it's not that uncommon, and by not having your kids in country, it's not making it as much of a hardship for you being on the road. That whether you're on the road or at home, you're still apart from your family. You just need to get back to the Philippines, which it is finally starting to open. That the IATF backed off. I think I made a comment the other day. The IATF finally backed off, and that they're allowing Cebu Province, Cebu Mactan Airport, to take in 1,000 non-vaccinated per day. So the fact the IATF backed off and allowed Gwen to go through with that is telling me that oh wow, you're coast to coast, dude. That I think you and this is our Philippines. You and Steve are the two main truckers here. Jojo, didn't you make comment you drove truck for a little bit? Uh, but yeah, I drove for a while, and doing OTR was just not my gig. And by the time I my first wife and I separated, that I'd had 20 years in with the city of Phoenix, that there was no way I was going to go, drop that job to go back over the road. Although over the years I had several opportunities. Uh, and when I was working in city of Phoenix, I drove for Bash's Casual that and loved that, and made as much on a decent Friday night, Saturday night as I did Monday through Friday. If I got a couple of back-to-back good runs from Bash's delivering groceries, so I never had to fingerprint anything. The only thing that did kind of suck is it was always multiple stops. That rarely, very rarely, did you ever. Okay, I remember you said you were a welder machinist, but somebody else, one of the other subscribers, was a drove truck for a while, and I'm not sure who it was. But yeah, with a couple of good loads that I could make as much during in 2 days on a weekend that I could during the week. That looks like we got a Russian hacker in here. I'll go delete the comment. I'll leave it stay. I don't care. I'm small enough that I can get it. I'll take every comment I can get. Out of dumb curiosity, how was doing the postal run? I know Steve from this is our Philippines that he used to do, not owner operator, but was working for a company that did the postal run, and left for for personal reasons. But hey, Jojo, Mr. Jojo. I need to talk with you when I get back. I've got an old MG midget. I am not a welder by any stretch of the imagination. I can use an oxyacetylene torch like a freaking hot glue gun, and that's about it. I got a hole that I've got an MG midget that they put an antenna on it in the wrong place, and I need to patch that hole. And I want some advice on trying to weld that or somehow close up that hole again. Oh, trying to get a truck through New York City is insane. That was actually a big part of the reason why driving over the road never worked out for me, because I was East Coast and from New York State, and dispatchers would all the time think, "Oh, New York State, he knows New York City." Well, that's not a bad gig at all. I never had a formal class in auto body. My high school years were spent in college prep classes, and then never wound up going to college, or at least not for anything even closely related to what I was doing. But I just learned it just mainly because I was too cheap or too broke to afford mechanics. Uh, can I say the life of a blue collar guy trying to start out in the 70s, 80s? Yeah, I had more than one rolling wreck, and for you guys that don't know, I've got a side channel that I do a little bit, and do uh, motovlogs, Phil's to Phoenix motovlogs. And while I was trying to get some rides in, stuff like that here, I I haven't been getting the rides in like I wanted to. So no, I do not. I'd like to learn a little bit more about welding, but not a whole lot. I have no desire to be a welder, but there's a couple of projects I'd like to weld back home and just get buttoned up. Uh, enjoy your day, Mr. David. I appreciate you swinging in. That tell your wife I said hi. That my son has an old wire feed, 110 wire feed, and we've got an old uh, torch set up. But that's it, and I'm not even sure the wire feed works anymore. That it's old. I'd say it's got to be at least 10 years old and probably hasn't been used in 6. It hasn't been used in at least 7 because I know it hasn't been used since Cindy and I've been together. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Andy? Phillips and Joe? How's things in the CPIT? That hey, Andy, you do any welding? Andy wasn't a driver, but or wasn't a big truck driver, but he was a dirt track driver, and I know a lot of them used to weld. That yeah, because the fender well on an MG is a very looks like a Russian hacker's back. Is a very thin piece of metal, and that's my big thing on that. I was actually thinking about just taking some uh, fiberglass Bondo and putting it up on the bottom and holding it in place, and just taking Bondo, some fiberglass, and bringing it up close, and then Bondo, kind of like some glazing compound for it. Yeah, that Phoenix is actually getting some crazy weather. That they're getting a they're getting a winter storm warnings. Winter storm warnings in Phoenix are a little bit different than winter storm warnings where you guys are. Uh, but yeah, they've got snowplow alerts and all that on I-40 up in Flagstaff. That those guys do get winter storm warnings like you get. And that's why I was worried about that. I've done stuff like that before, and it's kind of held, but not terribly well. Uh, and I really don't want to pay someone to go in and do it. Because the other thing I was thinking about doing is getting a piece that's a little bit bigger and welding it in and smoothing it out that way. Or there's been a few different ways that I've thought about it. And I think bottom line, I'm gonna have to go find an old washer or something, and just start tearing it apart and practice welding on that thing. So Jojo, what are you painting? You doing artistic painting or like bodywork painting or house painting? Yeah, northern Arizona can get some crazy, crazy weather. Uh that when I was working for Bashes, that they had stores up in northern Arizona, Flagstaff, up on the Indian reservations, and there was more than once that I almost needed to see a proctologist to have a seat cover removed at the depot down in Phoenix after coming down 17 that hill. Uh, and they can get that weather all the way up to stinking May. Uh, that you come down off that rim, that northern Arizona rim, and you can have weather changes that are mind numbing. Before Daniel, before I started welding on the fender itself, I'd want to make some practice welds on similar metal, similar thickness metal, to make sure that I don't warp it. Because I did that one time, uh, trying to do a patch, and I warped the dog snot out of a floor pan, and wound up having to have a friend of mine go in and make a bigger cutout, get another floor pan, and do it right. And he showed me a couple of tricks that I haven't tried, and he tried to encourage me to try it on that one, but I really didn't want to make a bigger mistake that I made. And he said with him there watching me, he could make sure that I didn't make a mistake that he couldn't correct. Oh, very cool. When we get back, I got to talk with you. We've got an idea to do a picture frame for Chana, and I really want to talk with you about some help with getting that done. And it kind of goes along the line of the birth certificate that I'd really like you to do. Oh, very cool. That painting Christmas ornaments, that you got way more artistic skill than I could imagine, and that is something really cool. Uh, Daniel, that's exactly what I'd wind up doing. Is probably what I would do is we have in Phoenix that they have uncontained trash, and a lot of times you'll go out and you'll find washers, dryers, that you'll find different metal. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people that go through when when scrap prices were insanely high. It was a big thing to do, but they'll go through and grab the metal pieces out, and so a lot of times you can find metal like that. Uh, and a lot of local artists, Jojo, you may get an appreciated out of this one, that a lot of the local artists that make like these shovel ornaments, like the lawn decorations out of a shovel and stuff like that, where they're welded together and make a bird or whatever. That they'll get a lot of their stuff from uncontained trash, and that's probably what I'd wind up doing, is going and get 4 or 5 pieces of metal from them, and just going out back and practicing and figuring out how to do it right. That's one drawback to back in Phoenix. Is back in the U.S. everything's 110, and so the welder I've got's a 110 welder, so it's not a strong welder. But by the same token, if it's still working right, that it's probably just as good that it's not that strong of a welder. It'll weld a lot thinner metal without a problem. Uh, Steve, the current disposition on Sunshine. Matter of fact, I just got a text that's helping me decide on that one. That the water guy that we know has a mechanic that works on his stuff, and was going to make the recommendation, and at first we were saying, we don't know what's going on with it. Then her brother stepped up and said that that they'd kind of like it. And to be bluntly honest, I don't know if the transmission would take the trip back to Sabunga at this point. I don't know what happened to it, whether it was the trip, whether the mechanic, whether whatever, but whatever happened to it, the transmission is effectively gone. And so I guess he's going to have somebody come over a little bit later or tomorrow or sometime in the future and take a look at it. And so we're going to find out what it would cost to get another surplus transmission put in it, because that's the best we can get at this point. May or may not do the review at this point. A lot of that depends on when we get this stupid passport back. If we get it back and can leave on between the 7th and 11th, I may just not have time. I may have to get some B-roll footage before we go and see about doing one when we get back. My personal recommendation at this point is I would never get one as a primary transportation again. Knowing the issues that you've got on getting reliably good parts for them, I would probably never get one again. I'd get an older, if you're a mechanical type guy that likes working on vehicles, I would recommend getting an older vehicle that's more of a mainstream vehicle that you can get parts for. It's going to be about the same price range, and parts are going to be way more abundant. And you will have the benefit of being able to get actual new parts for them. Whereas these, I don't know whether or not, I don't even know if Suzuki makes new parts for these. That by all rights, after the Japanese registration laws age them out, they're shut down and not made anymore. But the engine and transmission will continue on into the new year. So I don't know. Because like I've said before, I went down knowing that the K3 is still, or the engine that's on this is still made and put into the ones that are imported. For whatever reason, the minute that they realized it was for the multi-cab, the surplus multi-cab, they wouldn't sell me a PCV valve. So I don't know. Yeah, Sunshine will live again. Sunshine has been worth its weight in gold to us in a lot of ways. I am not regretting getting it. It was an experiment when we got it, and I kind of said that from the very get-go with it. And I won't say that it was a failed experiment, but it opened my eyes on a lot of things that have to do with owning a multi-cab. And one of them is you're never going to find genuine new parts. To find actual rebuilt parts is really sketchy at best. You can get rebuild kits for some of this stuff. When we had some work done on it last year, that he did have a line on a rebuild kit for the turbo, and he claims to have rebuilt it. My bad is I didn't go over there and watch him when he was doing this stuff. Not saying he didn't, or anything else. I am not saying anything along that lines. But at this point, I am kind of curious what the rebuild kit consisted of. I know what is in my mind when I hear rebuild kit, and I don't know whether or not that's actually what a rebuild kit here consists of. So I don't know. As far as finding remanufactured parts, yeah, no, you're going to have just as much luck finding a new part. Uh, and I realize a lot of mistakes we made in buying this one. If someone is looking to come and buy one, I would get with a good mechanic, a very good, reputable mechanic. I would go down, I would find one with the mechanic, knowing, the mechanic that knew what was going on. Let the mechanic help and guide you in picking one out, letting a mechanic build it for you. Or if you're that kind of guy, working with the mechanic and let him help you build it. But they are unique enough that unless you are a really, really good mechanic, you're probably going to need some help figuring out some of this stuff that they're going to be way more familiar with because they're more common here. But yeah, that I would not buy one from any of the builders. That there were way too many hidden problems in this that were just very poor build quality. And that is very stereotypical Filipino, even in better, higher end stuff. So I would not recommend buying one from a manufacturer or buying one that you can't go through and test very well. One of the things I am going to do when I get back to the States, I've got a couple lines on them. I've reached out to the manufacturers and asked, and several have said that either the unit themselves or you can get a download patch that will work, that will make it work. Is I'm going to get a code reader. I'm going to get one of the computer readers for the cars, because that would have shown me something early on that would have kept me from buying Sunshine altogether. Is when they configured when they rebuilt it, they literally cut the wiring for the port so that you could not put a code reader to it. And if I would have realized that there was nothing coming out of it, I would have never bought it. I would have moved on and bought something different. I have talked to one manufacturer and asked about multi-cabs in particular. And he said the reply was yes, after certain years, yes. And the most common years here that they fall within that time frame. I talked with another manufacturer and they said that when you're ready to make the move or when you want it, let us know. And there's a patch that you can download and install with it to include those. So, and a few said no, they don't do it, so that those ones are out of the running altogether. And it's getting to the point where I've got an Xterra back home. It's got an intermittent problem with the check engine light will come on, it'll stay on for a few days and go off. And it's been doing that ever since it's been new. Ever since it's been new to us. I originally went down and had the codes read. And it was a temperature sensor was malfunctioning. And so I went down and got new temperature sensors, plugged it in, and in 2 days it went off and it stayed off the rest of the time we were there. Since we've been in the Philippines, my son and another friend is saying that it comes on and off periodically still. I don't know if you ever watch him. Here's another channel plug, Scotty Kilmer. That he does an automotive channel. He's been doing this type of stuff for 30 years. That he's been a mechanic for 50 plus years. He owns a garage, I think in Texas. He's somehow, his grandfather or something like that was from Niagara Falls, and he spent time up in that area. I don't know, but anyways, he actually does have some really good information. He's kind of funny to watch a lot. He does these type of live stream, not live stream, but he does these type of videos giving car care advice. He'll go out and do, show some of the different stuff. And he's recommended a couple that are very good. They give a lot of information, but don't give information overload. And he admits that the code readers that he's got, the full readers that he's got, the $3, $5, $7,000 ones that he's got at the shop, the average person isn't ever going to use. It's information overload. And for a lot of people that aren't terribly familiar with this stuff, it's going to be more confusing than it's worth. And so when he does make these recommendations, he takes that into account. And he also takes it into account that a lot of them that he uses at his shop are 4-digit figure prices. And any of them he's reviewed and told about for being, home mechanic level, that they've been in mid to low 300s. The most expensive one I think I've seen is like a $600 one, and that one's overkill for most people by his own admission. Most of them that he recommends are under $100. Hey, no worries, Daniel. I appreciate you showing up for when you have. That I really do appreciate you guys showing up, even just a few minutes here and there. That it helps. It helps move the conversation along, and it also keeps me encouraged on doing this stuff. So Andy, did you ever get much into mechanic work, or were you more just driver? I know some drivers get heavy into mechanics. Some stick, more with driving and just basic mechanical work on their cars. But I've always enjoyed piddling around with cars, but never getting too far in depth with them. More doing tweaks and stuff like that than doing actual full rebuilds and stuff. Just simple general stuff. Although I know how to and have been around helping people doing it, I've never rebuilt a carburetor. So you're way up on me. So have you got a code reader that you might recommend? That if any of you guys do, I'm definitely in the market looking for one. When we get back, I am almost certainly going to get one. Finally, I'm going to break down and get one, just because any vehicle that I get, I know I'm going to start needing them on. And if we're going back and going to be staying back in the U.S. for that length of time, now I can honestly say that's something I have never done. I've woke up in some strange places, but never under a car. Woke up behind a wheel a couple of times. Jeff and Steve can probably appreciate that one. You can get that white line fever pretty bad. Especially after 12, 15 hours behind a wheel. I know a lot of the racing engines had computers long before they were really common in mainstream, but I know a lot of dirt trackers, did stay very old school in their engines because that's what they knew and understood. That they tended to go one way or the other, go full scale new school or go, stay full scale old school, that there wasn't a whole lot of in between. That is a little excessively old school, because generators were not. I've heard of a few drivers running without an alternator or generator, that they just didn't do anything. They felt it robbed that extra half a horsepower and the extra couple pounds of weight that they were trying to pull off. And any of the that all their systems were mechanically driven anyhow. Their gauges and such were all mechanical gauges, so that an alternator would have just been an extra weight that they didn't need or want. Uh, and if you're running, well, no, you do need the alternator. You do need the alternator. They didn't run batteries. That I take that back. They were running batteries. I don't. I, I've heard of doing that. I've heard of people doing that. Michael and Heidi, uh, that they've sent uh, amazing amounts of belly band boxes that they don't, because they don't have a weight restriction. I've heard of people sending some amazing amounts of engine parts that way. You've kind of got to be careful about it though, because if you get caught for importing auto parts, that you can get some heavy tax penalties. Yeah, '07 kind of killed a lot of hobbies for a lot of people. I know people that lost a lot of bikes and boats and all kinds of other things. I also know a lot of people that managed to keep a lot of bikes and boats that were paid off, but lost a house. So, and they were the kind that tapped their house equity like a freaking ATM. Uh, and Michael and Heidi, I've actually thought about, when we first got here, I wanted to put a winch on Sunshine. And I looked at them here and they're kind of pricey. And a friend and I were looking at one and gonna have it shipped in a Balik Bayan box. And then things started changing and we realized that, yeah, we're going to be going back and a lot of other stuff. But when we come back, yeah, that there's a real good chance that I will start importing some auto parts and stuff like that, especially if we have a vehicle. Was that? I remember, now that you mentioned it, one of the characters did do that. I was thinking it was Klinger, but yeah, it may have been Radar. I could definitely see Radar. I was thinking it was Klinger as well, but it may have been Radar. If you could break it, Jojo, you got the advantage. You're a welder. You could cut it down into small enough parts to fit in a belly button box. And the way some of these belly button boxes are packed, it wouldn't surprise them. That yeah, I was thinking it was Klinger too, but in a lot of ways, Radar would make more sense. But yeah, I could see Klinger doing it. I was thinking, like I said, I was thinking it was Klinger, but yeah, that was kind of a funny one. And uh, the military mail allowed stuff like that to happen. Uh, my great aunt, my great aunt's husband, my great uncle, my uncle. I'm not sure what the exact kin is, but some kin. They they sent a German rifle back through the military postal service back to their home. This was like World War II era. There you go. Yeah, that would probably work, Jojo. Uh, the the way they recycle stuff here, the way they upcycle, it was radar. I could see somebody turning something like that into a lamp. Be like that old Johnny Cash song, one part at a time. Uh, was that the name of that song? One part at a time. That had that Cadillac that was 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. That again, I've heard of auto workers doing silly stuff like that too. Uh, if you get persistence enough, you can do stuff. You can do stuff like that. And that's the one thing about these multi-cabs. I know, that there are vehicles in the U.S. one piece at a time. Uh, there are vehicles in the U.S. that have that same engine in them. And so I know that there are new parts in the US, but I don't know the engine well enough to know which particular items will and won't fit. And so that's where my biggest stumbling block is coming along, is trying to figure out that stuff. Whereas I know that there's a Toyota Tamron, there's a new Punjab, and there's a dozen other vehicles that they may be called a slightly different name, but the engine and drivetrain parts are the same. Some of the body parts may be different. And so I know that I could get new parts at least back in the US, if not here. Either you're real quick with a Google search, John, or you got an outstanding memory. Because he just said it was radar, that it was in an episode of Dear Dad, and I kind of remember that because it was actually Hawkeye writing the letter back to his father about what was going on. Because I remember the comment that when the postman realizes he delivered an entire Jeep, he was going to have a hernia retroactively. But I just couldn't remember the character, and it for some reason it was in my mind that Klinger did it. It was something as crazy as he would do, but it was something as frugal as Radar would do. I didn't realize it. There was actually a spinoff. I just ran across it the other day. There was actually a spinoff that made the pilot, but never made another episode that featured Radar. And Radar was a state or local cop. That he went back and tried farming and got married, and farming didn't work out, and then he wanted to be a cop. I don't think that was back in the 50s. I don't think they did that, especially for government mail. I don't think they did